Hi, it's Brian Haberlin from DigitalArtStudios.com, and again, in the spirit of Inktober, we're going to be doing some more ink styles. This is going to be more of a sort of an old school Montgomery flag kind of etching fine technique that we're going to do over this beautiful John Buscema Tarzan pencils. So I'm just going to use the stock G pen up here. The trick to getting some of the fine stuff is, right now you see the brush size is 40. I'm going to bring it down to about 10. Okay, and really what this is you're just going to go ahead and, rather than doing big thick shapes like that, right, is the focus is going to be more doing little fine line shapes. So I'm like going in here, I come down here. There are some places that you'll do a little bit more thickness. That's his hair. We see everything's kind of like a bunch of little strokes or double strokes. So nothing is really like, normally if I would be inking, I'd throw, you know, not something just like that, but something kind of like that. But I'm doing little double line shapes. Coming over here, come back here. I'm actually going to start adding some stuff. I mean, these are loose pencils. Again, as I've said before, I chose this piece. One, it's fun. It's fun to ink John. And two, it's nice loose pencils like you would see in a lot of real comics, especially if you're inking. Again, these things are better samples. Throw some shading in here, just thin lines. I'm staying thin, okay? That's why you're getting this kind of look. Real pretty sort of etching kind of, just stroking back and forth. Again, this is just the stock G pen. And think about too where the shadow's coming from. I mean, you can start going some cross hatching. I did a little cross hatching there. I can start bringing, if I want to really kind of bring this around a little bit more, I can bring this around a little bit more. Not really spotting blacks in this style. That's kind of one of the big differences too. Not doing any really thick holding lines. Gonna get to the stroke of the muscle there, and then I'm gonna do some shading. Sometimes you want to sort of decide where you're doing this shape. So we have John's, he's got a big jaw here, and he's got a shape here. So I'm gonna do a little shape around it, and then I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna throw lines. And you notice I didn't finish the lines here. That's because I'm going to come back in and do lines this way, crossing around. Now let's say you wanted to get some, like here on the core, on his Adam's apple, there would be a little bit more shading. So I'm gonna hatch that a little bit more, so I get another kind of, it's like almost like a level of halftone you're thinking of when you do this. But it's important that you sort of go with the form when you're doing it. And again, this is just showing you so people can think about, you know, what style they really want to work with when they do this stuff. This can get very designy if you want. See, I'm just going to start cutting out shapes of hair and rendering shapes. So that's one teardrop shape like that I'll render, and then I'll do the next one. So the next one will be here. And so I'm going to want to leave a highlight here, so I'm going to go ahead now and go to the top of the hair and start coloring down some shapes. John's got some flyaways up there, so I'm going to go ahead and do those. Got to make some good inking noises when you do this. And now I'm going to start rendering a little bit more, because this style kind of demands to have a little bit more sort of realism in the shading. So I'm going to start throwing some lines where John's already kind of dictated them, and I would say normally this would be done in color if I was going to color this piece, but I'm not coloring this piece. It's just going to be inks. And again, what's great about digital is I can come back in with this wonderful, easy white. You know, if you want to do any kind of crosses to it. Again, this is just stylization at this point. I want to come back and give a nice highlight in the eyes. Sometimes that's easier to do after, depending on what your control is like. Go ahead and finish shading out this area that will be in a little bit more shadow. And again, you can, you know, keep going. It's easy to get a little bit overworked with this style, so watch that. But it really can be a very pretty style once you're done with it. And then sometimes it's beneficial to, like, if, let's say I'm kind of done here, is to have a little bit more of a go in dark, heavier. I'm just pressing harder. It's still the same brush size, and I'm just going to kind of give it a little bit more of a holding line to bring everything together. Again, throwing a couple lines off, and then I'll come back in. And these are kind of nice for some flyaway highlights in here. Come back over it with a little bit of white. Again, you can come back in with white too and start, like, you know, changing the rendering a little bit. Coming back in over here. You know, occasional thrown, like, splotch of white is kind of good for the eye. It gets the eye a little excited, I think, when you're dealing with this stuff. Give him a little bit of his line coming in there to the brow. This turns a little bit, so I'm going to give this a little bit of shading. But there you go. So it's just staying small with the brush is the key to doing this style, and really thinking about kind of rendering in a hatch way. So you're almost, even though you're doing lines, you're basically drawing your own halftone pattern, so to speak, almost here with this. And sometimes you want to squint at it to see if there's any places where you should be adding, you know, a few more lines together, so you can kind of see where the darks really are, you know. See if you are kind of losing it, because you still have to have light and dark in the piece, and that's why we have light areas in certain places. And now if you want to clean, see how this edge here? So if you want to really have a clean edge, it's like I'm just going back over with white now, and now I'm working back into it a little bit with sort of a negative fade. And there you go. That's more of a etching style for the piece. So again, the key to that is multiple lines, close together, follow the form. Don't be afraid about coming back and using white to correct any mistakes or to add more detail to the piece. Okay? See you next time. Hey. Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, please check out our website, digitalartstutorials.com. And if you have any friends or family you think might enjoy it, please, by all means, share away. There will be a lot more of this stuff coming up. I'm dialing up to do a lot more tutorials, so subscribe and stay tuned for more.